I'm a big fan of nasal strips, and recently a subscriber reached out to me and mentioned a product by Rhinomed called Turbine. This is a nasal dilator, which basically serves the same purpose as a nasal strip, but whereas a nasal strip opens up your nasal passages from the outside by pulling your nostrils apart, a nasal dilator works from the inside out by pushing your nostrils open with the dilator that goes inside of your nose. Of course, I wanted to see how these worked in action, so I decided to put one on and go for a run. Now, the good thing about the Turbine is that it actually comes with a starter pack, the one that I'm holding right here, which comes with 3 different sizes. So if you're not sure what size is the best for you and your nose, this is what I recommend going with. It comes with a small, medium, and large, so you can put them all on, try it out, see how it fits, and go from there ordering a full set. As far as how the nasal dilator performs, I'll say that it does what it's supposed to do. It does what it claims to do, which is to open up your nose to allow for better breathing. And while I was running and also doing my jump rope with the Turbine in, I do feel like it accomplished that job. According to Rhinomed's website, they say that the Turbine has been proven in a clinical trial to increase airflow through the nose by an average of 38%. Now, I can't measure this. I don't know for sure if that 38 number is true, but I will say that for my own purposes, better breathing, wearing this while I do cardio, I do feel like I had better breathing, better performance. So in general, I like having it in. I would say the biggest pro with the Turbine relative to a nasal strip is that sweat is basically a non-factor. Whenever I'm running or doing jump rope with the nasal strip, eventually I start sweating, and eventually that adhesive comes a little loose and it doesn't serve the purpose I want it to serve. The Turbine, on the other hand, goes in your nose. It's unaffected by sweat. So the big pro here is that if you're going to be doing long bouts of cardio and the nasal strip falling off is an issue for you, Turbine or any nasal dilator like this is going to be a good option because it just stays in your nose. It's awesome for that. And that's kind of my second pro of this, is that at no point with it in my nose, whether I was jumping or running, there's a lot of movement involved in those 2 forms of cardio. At no point did this thing move. When I put it in, it felt like it was in, it stayed there. There was no wiggling, no wobbling whatsoever. So for me, I'll say that the nasal dilator is awesome. It doesn't move, and the medium seems to be a good fit for me. The last pro here is the durability of this thing. Now, when you get the starter pack, one of the first things you're going to notice is that it says it can only be used 10 times. And that's part of the reason why you have to get the 3-pack of whatever size is the size for you. Now, I won't say you can use this forever or even 100 times, but I do think 10 is on the lower end. I could probably get more than 10 uses out of this, but just don't go expecting this thing to last you for months on end. Eventually, it's going to get a little flimsy, and it's not going to last forever, but it does last longer than the 10 uses they advertise on the box. Now for the cons, I'll say the big one here for me, the big reason I don't like using a nasal dilator, is that I have something in my nose. This is going to be a little bit of personal preference, but for me personally, I'd rather deal with the inconvenience of a nasal strip, even if it does come off with some sweat, rather than having something in my nose. Sure, it felt like I was able to breathe better, but there was just still the uncomfortableness of having a piece of plastic in your nose, which is where I'm breathing. It's just not ideal. Yes, it felt better than nothing, but it's not the best feeling you could have, which I feel is a nasal strip. The other thing with the Turbine is that because you're sticking it in your nose and you're going to reuse this, it's not the most sanitary thing. I mean, even if you are going to wash it after every time, which I did, it's still just a little gross, like coming inside. You have to pull this out. You have snot all over it. You're washing it. It's just not ideal. So for me personally, that's enough of an inconvenience where this wouldn't be my day-to-day. And finally, the last con, which wasn't really a con for me, but it might be for some of you, is that because there are only 3 sizes, it's a little bit limited in terms of sizing, if that makes any sense. For some people, these sizes just might not work well. Maybe you have a really wide nose, but it's not very tall. And unfortunately, these dilators, as you go from small to large, they just get big in every direction. So the large might be a good fit, but then it's just so far up your nose, it's a little uncomfortable. So ideally, there would be width and height sizes, but I get that doubles the product line, so it just might not be the best fit for you. And now the final question. What is my preference? Nasal strips or nasal dilators? Without a question, it's the nasal strip. Dilators aren't the worst option, but for me, I just don't like that feeling of something being in my nose. So if I were going to use a dilator, I would prefer to use it while I'm sleeping and not while I'm awake doing my cardio. I'd much rather have a nasal strip on. Half the time, I forget the thing is even on, whereas a nasal dilator, I'm always going to know it's in my nose. If all I had access to for the rest of my life were nasal dilators, I'd use them. But in a world where I have access to both, nasal strips for the win. So my final review of this product, and I think of nasal dilators in general really, just to show you guys I have no affiliation with this product at all. I bought it with my own money. I'm going to give these a 4 out of 5. They do the job they're supposed to do. They do a good job of it. The inconveniences to me are just a little bit too much to overcome for my purposes. Just having something in my nose, not about it. So for that reason, I'm knocking it down 1 star just because it's not as perfect as a nasal strip. But nasal dilators are still definitely worth your consideration if it's a good fit for you. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider liking the video and let me know, what do you prefer, nasal dilators or nasal strips? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.